All right, what's up, everybody? Today, I have a very special guest here for us. His name is Usman. We would love to know a little bit about his previous experience, what he's done, and he's one of Launch My Agency's clients. So, with that being said, Usman, if you can please take it away, give us a little bit of who Usman is, a little bit of the previous background. I know early on the call, we were just talking about that you have an experience that is very different than most people. So, I'm sure the viewers here would love to know a little bit about yourself. So, if you can take it away.
Thanks, Aurora. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to just come up and just share my thoughts, right? I mean, that's how I'm kind of viewing it. I'm still fairly early into the journey with LMA. I've just approached my fifth week. I'm hoping to be able to launch my agency, sometime next week. So it's like a pretty big thing for like a person like me, but just a bit of a background myself. I have been in the United States for over 22 years. I was born in very privileged family back in Pakistan, grew up in Islamabad. When I got done with my education, I just was not really ready to be able to get into the job market. And then suddenly my mom said, "Hey, would you want to go for further studies?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course," because I just thought that was going to be a fun. But that basically just changed my life, right? I mean, in terms of when I came, I realized what the life is all about. Suddenly my dad said, everybody in the family, "Oh, he's just going to come back after a year, 2 years. He's just going there for having fun." And then actually my dad was pretty annoyed with me for good part of 2 years for just going without his will because he just wanted me to stay and help him out. But the decision that I did it, I mean, our business, my dad's business actually took like a big hit at that time. And he was going through some really tough patch. So I became very, very anti-business, just because of the fact of just going in that we weren't really sure. We had so much money, but then suddenly we wouldn't. And then obviously the political situation in Pakistan was very, not very stable to say the least. And so he got impacted by it big time because he was a real estate developer and he just didn't really get along with one of the military, when they came in back in 99. So obviously he just got impacted pretty.
Or Musharraf, right?
Yes. But I think it was more I think the political versus the military, certain people got impacted a lot more than the others. And the certain, the people who actually don't have the networks and those have extra amount of money, sometimes you don't realize in business, even a small hit sometimes could become pretty detrimental. And then it could just impact, have a drastic impact if you don't have multiple lines of income and stuff. I mean, long story short, when I just came here, I had no idea what I was doing. I did my master's. I first applied actually in 1999 and the embassy got shut. And I was actually kind of and at that point I said, okay, I'll just do an MBA, something I just wanted to be able to get along and didn't want to get into the market. And then finally on the same I-20, for people who just don't know what I-20 is, it's what the work is, the student visa, you basically just come out here. I come here. I basically wasn't sure, just I was in bachelor's. I wanted to finish my bachelor. Actually, I finished my master's at that time. Transferred over to an MBA. A friend said, "What are you going to do with an MBA?" That was, I'm talking about 2001. And this was actually came here a month before 9/11. So obviously my experience suddenly changed after 9/11. I was in there and then suddenly the job market cracked and they were obviously times were very different back then.
And then some turbulence, a lot of adversity, a lot of
Correct.
turbulence.
So that actually, I think, was like a jolt that maybe I needed. And I said, okay, now I'm here. I got to do something. And at that the time I actually got into accounting. It was something where somebody said, one of my friends, "Hey, if you do become an accountant, you're going to get a good job." I'm like, okay, that's all I care. I just want to show my family I can do something and I don't want to just go back empty handed. And then I became an accountant. I passed my CPA, all those different things. And then suddenly now, what do? I don't have a job. And this just job market's still not good. My visa, 2 months left before my visa, suddenly I got a call.
So you're a CPA.
I am a CPA, yes.
Okay.
So it's just something I don't tell people a lot because I've never practiced. And it was just something, I just got in, but I do have the right to be able to call myself CPA because I do have my license, just back in my office to be able to say that I did it. So that basically kind of lined along. If I put my mind to something, I think I can do it, whether I like it or don't. But I never really accounting was something not my passion. But 2 months before my visa, I had my return ticket in my hand. Suddenly I get a call and I got a call from KPMG. And those of you know, it's a big four accounting firm. And it was just something, a dream come true. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be having working for the one of the best accounting companies doing auditing. And now completely changed it. I achieved something. I had a paying income. Now I wanted to be able to go back. Then the whole idea at that time, getting the visa stamped and all those different things were very rough in those times. So I couldn't really travel outside. I was traveled inside. I decided to go back to get my visa stamp and I get stuck in Pakistan for 5 months. So
Stuck in a third world country.
yes, kind of setting it all up in terms of saying, how my life has been is very unexpected turns, left and right. And I've kind of,
Wouldn't you say though, like you kind of going through these ups and downs, wouldn't you say now, kind of maybe looking back, that was a very big strength of yours now? That because you went through those experiences that you can leverage some of that? What do you think about that perspective?
absolutely, again, when you're in that moment, you do not realize it. But when you come out of it, like at that time, I just wanted to get back. But people say, hey, you're young, you start out. I was getting really good jobs over there. But I just like said, I've never enjoyed US. I never kind of, because I was so focused in achieving it. I want to go back, have fun, come back. So even at that time too, I wanted to come back. I kind of like, gone through it. I came back. I got married back home. The whole idea. My mom got married, arranged marriage real quick. Something people don't know anything about it. And I met my wife like the day of the wedding. We talked well. So I have,
So you guys still going on strong?
alhamdulillah, yes, just like 17 years. Actually, March 21st is going to be our 18th year anniversary. So in terms of like, just making these decisions, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not the typical guy who kind of like, put a lot of thought into it. I kind of make decisions and then I just go full throttle into it. Like, I mean, I hold on, hold on, hold on. I mean, I kind of do my due diligence up front, but then I don't regret it. It's just like one of those things is whatever it is for the right or for the wrong, I don't really go back and look, if I would have done this, then what if? And that's what I felt, from like a business aspect is very important. Once you kind of go into something, you have to be able to be very sure about. And this whole, I mean, I'm just obviously skipping a lot of
I love the passion. Yeah.
things.
Love the passion.
2025 was the year where I just finally decided I want to do something. I mean, I kind of like I have a very successful career.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to get into. Like you going from hating business, the ideology of like business sucks, or maybe through your past experiences, to now you're a business owner, right? You have your own online digital marketing agency. Big change. What happened? Like, was there a line in the moment, that you kind of drew the line in the sand that you had a moment like that? Or was it more like a buildup, like a slow buildup? And, over time, a volcano just erupted and you're like, I want to have my own online business.
It was so built up. So I think a couple of things just basically happened. I was in public accounting. That's just over to banking in finance. So I worked for HSBC and then I've been with JP Morgan Chase for about 14 years. So I mean, I just approached my 14 years. Last 2 years, like 3 years ago, we moved from Chicago. So I'm based out of Chicago for 15 years and then moved over to Texas, just like Dallas for better quality of life. And, just kids are getting older, right? I'm at a high schooler and then the middle schooler. And then suddenly, my health, just like started deteriorating a little bit, in terms of where I looked around, one of my really good friends had a heart attack. He was like a very successful physical therapist and a young and active guy, just like me. And I'm pretty active myself too. So he suddenly said, hey, we need to be able to have some passive income. It's not something if you stop working, our bills stop getting paid, something happened. And at that time, I just listened to it. But the back of my mind, I'm like, what? I have a fairly successful career. I've been like with this company for so long. I'm doing really well. But then it was something that get registered in my thing. And as we're getting better, right? And as I'm having some extra cash, I'm thinking about investing. The real estate was the first thing. Anybody have any idea about Dallas is at one point, Dallas was a very lucrative market in terms of investing into real estate. But one of my things is I want to stay away from interest. That's something, for like religious reasons and everything else. That's one of the reasons why I never got into business and anything else, because I did not want to, there's things to pay, ways you can avoid interest, there are ways you can't, like mortgages and those things. I mean, where I kind of like, feel it's okay to be able to do from like a personal beliefs perspective. But business was just something I think for better quality of life. I did not feel like taking any interest related income to be able or help. So that was one of the things where I just kind of like thinking, but I actually wanted some passive income. So my first and foremost thought was to be able to invest in the real estate. And I was thinking that 2025 was the year where I had like, a little bit of money, just like saved up. And
How much were you planning to invest in real estate?
I was thinking about like, 25 to $30,000, just 25,000, something. My sweet point obviously was like an installment, like, 10, 15, 20, something of that range in terms of, and it all depend, I'd be kind of like, I had 10,000 and I was going to ask my wife to be able to chip in, and we keep things very separate, in terms of like financing something, my responsibility to run the house and everything else. My wife's income is my wife's income, but she was also kind of like, getting ready. So we thought like, let's just do a joint venture in terms, you give me 10, I'll give you 10. And then we'll just put something into it to be able to start having a passive stream. And then suddenly, I saw Abdul, in my Facebook start popping up. The word halal CEO just kind of like came in, and I looked at once, I looked at twice. And then suddenly I just clicked it, 15th January. I still remember the day. It's just something I just end up clicking on. Let's hear it. I heard him. Then I I actually heard a podcast between you and Abdul, who were talking about whole entrepreneurship and anything, and, about creating like a whole, community in terms of like, something being self-sufficient, self-reliant. And the thing that clicked me was something that was common, I think, in one of those podcasts was somebody who able to philanthropy kind of aspect is something we can give to the more deserving. And one of the goals of mine, I'm just going to share it with all of you, was I want to be that first person sometime when you go into the mosque and ask, hey, the donation, $25,000, I want to raise my hand. And inshallah, one day maybe I would. And that was something of those lines you guys were talking, I just like vaguely remember, which something that just clicked me now. The kind of a person I am, and then in the reading, I mean, I would be the last person to be able to hear a podcast and just like think on the online link and then suddenly, dish out like, that kind of a money out. But at that time, I mean, again, I'm going on to the religious side because I'm a very spiritual person, and that's something played a very big part in making this decision was the word halal, the word kind of like, something of what my longer term goal was to be able to use this kind of income. I wake up the next day, I'm saying, I'm just going into it. My wife's like, are you sure? I'm like, you know what? I'm doing this for the God. This is just like, I'm getting into a business. This is the right reason. If I'm meant to be able to lose it, I can just lose it in any business. I have no idea. Now, I want to stress, I have no idea about business. I still am learning. And Nate is somebody that I just like, work with. Great guy. He's been very patient with me. I am getting to it. One thing he told me was take it easy, take it easy. Things will fall in place. Do things step by step. And it was very hard for me. I have ADHD. I mean, it's one of those things. I'm like, I want to know all the answers. My hand was literally held. Like I don't even know how to link accounts. I'm not very tech savvy. So, but I felt the support that you guys were providing was at least somebody you can just tell you what to do is something that's huge for a new entrepreneur who has no idea about. So I think those kind of things, when I did my math, it was a quick decision. I just took about a week. My wife was actually on Umrah at the time. I was talking with Jabir, really great guy. But at that time, I talked to him with my spiritual thing. And I'm like, you know what? I am making a deal with Allah. I just like the God, deal with the God. You just have to be able to do it. Put your best effort into it. But up to this point, though, I felt slowly but surely, I felt important. I created the payment. I set up my payment thing set up, right? Just today, this morning.
It's a step by step, right? Like you're saying, a house isn't built in one day, right? People, and unfortunately, we live in this world of just instant dopamine, instant just reactions. And people expect, oh, I spend money, I need money back right tomorrow. Well, it's like, it's not that simple. If you, just like you said, right? If you look at other business models, this is one of the fastest ways to make money without spending like 150, $200,000 up front, right? With e-commerce or with so many other different types of business models that exist out there, you have to invest a lot of money if you're trying to get returns in the next month of 2, 3 months, right? Whereas with a digital marketing agency, it doesn't require how much money up front. All you need is a laptop, a couple skill sets, and you kind of good, you're good to go.
It's the team. I think the support team is very important, especially for a person like me, right? It was like people who understood you, who could relate to you, who have done things, who have been in your shoes. I heard your story, right? I heard Christian's story, right? I heard about like I closely relate to Abdul quite a bit, right? I mean, I think he's your business partner. His thinking and all those different things. I kind of related quite a bit, being from the same country. I think that also just like aligned, gelled a lot. And I thought the main difference obviously is having a strong team behind you and with the realistic expectations. Because at this point, there are a lot of people I honestly, and I'll be completely honest with you, somebody I can relate, tell this thing about because would be very much interested. So far, my experience really good. I've actually have other people reach out to me and ask me, how's it going? I'm like, I have that belief. It will happen, but behind the scenes, because I actually picked up the program done for you because of like, my lack of like, technical skills and everything else. And I like what I see up to this point. Obviously I feel accomplished that I am a business owner. I have like an LLC. I have a checking account, like all those different things, I kind of like straw is basically being given. And I'm sure learning about like the fulfillment. I mean, like how I think Can's marketing is something having that support, I like to be able to go slow, right? Then there are other options for business agency owners to be able to cut down on costs and increase your profit margin. But first, the revenue has to start. Then you look at the expenses. You can't think about the expenses up front and think about just like a revenue piece. And that was actually a mistake that a lot of people do as well. Like I know the guarantee I have to be able to mention was a big, big, big factor. Not many people. And then I wasn't really sure when I saw the contract and still it's in there. And I think the way it's being written, right? It's actually somebody who's realistic makes sense. You're guaranteeing based off of certain things that the business agency owners have to be able to do. It's not something, it's not a money making thing that
It's not a light switch. Exactly. And again, it's like we're looking for people who have common sense, right? Who understand that, hey, it's like a marriage, right? You can't just expect to do nothing. You have to do your roles and the other person has to do their roles. And together we build this business up. It's very, very important to know, like, especially for you, Usman, right? Like you're stepping in to something that is very different than what you're experienced before. You've always been working for someone, correct? Like you've always had a job. But now you need to transition into being a business owner, which is a completely different switch, right? So it's like you can't expect it to be a light switch. It's more of like a slow process. And when I say slow, I don't mean years and years, right? Like it could literally take, as less as like a few months or even a few weeks if you choose to accept it, right? That's one of the biggest things is like we can't force anyone to do anything. We can just bring all the cards on the table, but you still have to pick the one that you need, right? So like people, unfortunately, sometimes they think of us as like the golden crutch. All their problems and all. No, it's not like that. We'll do everything that we can in our control and in our power to give you the best possible chance to succeed. But at the end of the day, you are responsible for your destiny, right? You are the one who's responsible. You're the owner. You're the company CEO, and so you need to accept that role and take that leadership and make the decisions that you need to for yourself.
Cesar, the way I look at it, it's just like, just anything that you ever want to be able to achieve, right? You have two options, right? You can get the education that how normally people get the education and apply it and basically make money. Or when you get into the job market, you make these business decisions, you create these partnerships that is beneficial to you and to your partner. In the end, everybody kind of like, gets. And that's how I understood up to this point is, which is something that I personally am interested in terms of like, I don't have much experience, but I have the desire. I have the desire to learn. I can work hard. And something honestly, I haven't really shared publicly with everybody. And that just basically based off how my life had been. That's why I just given you a background. On 4th February, I got laid off.
Wow.
So it was, and I just looked back and I said, wow, it was just one of those things. Is something I kind of like so suddenly from like a passive thing. Now this is becoming more of like an active thing. I'm still under my 45-day notice. Yes, I'm just looking around, but I'm realizing it's like a tough market in itself. So I felt the decisions have been made for me. It was just like something where I just started out and being a little bit, just off hands. And now suddenly I'm like, more on hand in terms of like trying to be able to really, just push this thing through. But I do understand how the process works. And that's what's more important, right? I mean, there are things that we do and have to be able to do when we are in the tough times. But at the same time, you still have to be able to keep yourself organized. And as a business owners, you have to be able to make some tough decisions in itself. And one of my favorite shows, a couple of years ago in the COVID time was Shark Tank.
Yes, I was gonna say the same. My favorite show.
We were thinking about it, my kids, and my son is very, very much, he's 15 years old and he's always coming up with some business ideas and everything else. So a lot of these things is something I'm thinking, he could just help out. I mean, he's a lot more tech savvy, but I'm just like,
So if you know our stories, I think we shared it, me and Abdul, we shared it inside of the podcast. So he has all his brothers. I have my brother. I have a sister as well. My dad, my best friend, Christian, like we all, it's kind of like a family business, right? And I'll tell you, like family businesses are the ones, if you take a look at some of the most successful businesses that exist, the Rockefellers, Trump, they're all families, right? So it's like that trust that you have, you can't break it, right? Like with someone else, you don't know if you can trust them or not. So that is very big. I think if you add your son in as well at 15, that's perfect. I don't know if you know Mo, who's my brother. He started at 11. So I started at like 18. He was 11 years old and he was like coding at 11 years old. And now, he runs our whole sales team.
So right. I mean, just from me, right? I mean, I am very much passionate, very much hopeful. But for me, right, to be able to start bringing people in, start recommending, right, I gotta be able to see the actual, the profit side of it. And then once that's just like, start, even if it's small, right, even if it's something to set it up. So I think that's where I think the next couple of weeks are just like, very important in terms of just like, just understanding and then having that extra belief in itself and saying, hey, this process works. But I think the input that you guys are doing, like you just sitting down here talking, like, yeah, you just guys are doing these open forums, all these like other people asking. I mean, the team is really good, right? In terms of reaching out to you, hey, we got this, answering all the people, the whole idea of this client, just like service manager, and then you're just doing all these things. It's something, it's really helping. And I feel it's if somebody does not have a lot of funds, right? You have multiple options. I was talking to somebody and he said, "Hey, I don't know about done for you or done with you, but I am a little bit more tech savvy." I'm like, absolutely. You can just do a lot more if you know something. I mean, and this is not like something where you only want to be able to do one. I know most of you guys have multiple agencies. So once you get one and up and running, that's like a learning curve, right? That's like one of those things. And you could do more. And that maybe at that time you understand like a lot more. You guys are willing to be able to share the resources and I think help out. And that's what stands you guys apart in terms of like, actually making people better through the process. I mean, people call me, how's it going? I'm like, so far, so good. I feel confident every week. And I still have
How it's
that.
supposed to be. And now even you have with the house, it's the first thing you do. You build a blueprint. You lay the foundation, right? It's deep down, right? Then you put the bricks up. So it's like that's where you're kind of at your phase at your journey here. And sometimes people are like, "Oh, but where's the house?" It's like, well, you can't put a cake in the oven and expect it to just bake in 5 minutes and just turn up the heat all the way. No, it needs 45 minutes, right? Like a baby needs 9 months to be born, not 1 month. So it's the
And
same.
then you start enjoying it. Yeah. And that you start, and that's what I just like say. I haven't started living in the house yet, but I can see it being built. And I have a hope habit, like understanding it. And I think that's where because of your personal experiences and personal like understanding, you have to understand the concept. Like if I were to be able to really break it down, you have to understand the concept. Like what is that business that you're really getting into it, right? Because I explored. I mean, there was one podcast I remember where I think it was Abdul who kind of like, laid it out and saying you have 4 and 5 options, right? If you want to be able to do it. E-commerce was one, put up retail. And he kind of like, went in that. And I think that's where I liked what I was getting into it. But even before the investment, you said, before having that discovery call, listen to this, listen to that. And I think that's the purpose. It was not a hard sales call saying, hey, give me your money, give me your money, give me your money. Even at that time too, when I said, you know what, Abdul, or I was talking with Jabber, I'm like, I understand everything. My wife's out of the country. She needs to be able to come back a week. I need 2 weeks to be able to kind of like think about it and come back. He says, absolutely. And he comes back 2 weeks. And that's where I'm like, okay, so these guys are not really after your money. They're really kind of like, have this desire to be able to help. I mean, at the end of the day,
Exactly. And it's like, Jobber's amazing, but every single one of our team members are like that. Because the thing is like it has to be a win-win for you first. Yeah, like how can you sleep at night? Not, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, the market is just it's just burnt through people just try to take without giving anything in return and just like making some of these bad decisions. And for us, it's like the complete opposite, right? We're answerable to God one day, right? We're gonna go and there's at least we believe in that. So unfortunately, a lot of people don't. But every single person on our team has been trained to like, it's not sales, it's not commission breath or anything, right? We actually disqualify about 45% of people who apply. So like we can't work with them. And also a big part of this is like, this is not a course. This is not like, we just randomly say, hey, we'll watch the videos. Good luck. No, this is hands on, right? We have about 50 full-time team members and they're the ones building the business up. So it's like, we're doing so much effort, so much work. We want to make sure that we partner and we bring on the right business partners that are for us. Very similar to like a McDonald's like franchise, right? When you go to McDonald's, first and foremost, they charge $2 million, right, to get a franchise, and they take 51% equity. Well, we don't do that. But also, like, even if you have the 2 million, you can't just get one. You can't just go in and say, hey, here's my credit card, give me a franchise. Nope. You have to go through a process. Right. So it's like it's the same concept of where we are looking for the right business partners because this is a long-term relationship. This is not for a month or two. Hopefully, at least what we're hoping for is going to be a relationship that's going to be for years and years and years to come, right?
and then I feel that's where the scaling part comes into play. I think for people who are just like, thinking about it or on the edges, you just have to understand first, you have to be able to buy into something. You have to be able to put in the effort. You have to understand, and understanding takes a while. There's definitely going to be a learning curve. You have questions, why not this way? Why not that way? So and I have been like, once you pick up a coach, what you kind of like and go through, you have to understand that coach's method. You have to believe in it. That coach is there for a reason, right? I mean, if you don't believe in the coach, don't even work with them. So once you believe in it, then just believe the system, go through the whole process, understand it. I mean, and then think good things will happen if you have the right frame of mind and understand this is still your decision. I love it. You know how when your team kind of like, creates these designs, everything else and says, you approve it because they want to give you that. I'm like, I have no idea. They're like, no, but still you got to approve because you are the CEO. And then you understand these are 3 options or the 4 options, pick one. Like they kind of like slowly training you to be able to start making these decisions. And then I love it. Also, I think a really important point, honestly, which I personally really like was how you guys give an option saying, hey, this is cans marketing, right? This is the option. Hey, this is your other option. This is your contractors. This says we are charging you more because we're giving you a white label service. These are going to be a little less. So I think that shows the whole intention of like really the help, not about making money. Because in my position, if you not tell me any other options, somebody like me would just take it whatever, right? And then, oh, I was expecting like, 100,000, but I'm only getting like $1,000,
Yeah.
because of like,
It has to be in the best interest of the clients. Like, I'll tell you, it's a secret of life. It took me years to figure it out, right? It took us years, but when you just serve some, like in any relationship, it doesn't have to be business, anything. If you make it your mission to serve the person that you're with or whoever, your friend, a romantic partner, a business, it doesn't matter. If you serve them more than anything, like more than they're serving you, that's the golden keys. Now it's like, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, a lot of times we have this perception of like, take, take, take. And that's, you kind of feel like that.
short term. That's a short term focus, right? If you make your clients happy, if you make your employees happy, you will be happy, right? I mean, if you make your family happy, because happiness is something that multiplies and doesn't say come back to you. I mean, that's why I think the philanthropy aspect should be in everybody's kind of like, personality from like a business perspective. Don't lose sight of it. No matter what millions you'd basically be doing, still the happiness to be able to help a person in need outweighs a $1 million deal or $10 million deals, because after a while money is money. You would want more and more and more and more. So keep your focus straight. Why are you in this? It's very important. And then I think you would want to be able to find anything outside of just making money. You have to have a strong desire of why you want to be in a business. And then if you have that right goal, I feel you just cannot just go long. And then again, choose the people you want to work with wisely, because that is what your experience makes good or bad. Money, I still feel is something that's been written in fate. You will get it our way. Don't really focus too much about it. Enjoy it. And that's one of the things, honestly, was I want to be able to enjoy this experience. Finally, I'm in my 40s, right? It's finally I'm at a point where now I want to do something where I feel good about talking to people, like helping people out. I mean, all those different things is something that I want to get away from, just like doing this, just
It's really fulfilling for the soul. Like,
yeah, it's good. Feels good. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And that's kind of like what wakes us up. I mean, even today, right? It's a Saturday. I'm actually pretty sick. I have a fever right now. I don't know if you can tell my voice, but I'm still here. Right? Like, we just truly love this. This is just something we do for free too. If it's just like a passion.
Conversation, a good conversation, right, is also something that makes you like, so much more better. There are days, obviously when I was going through it, talking to Nate, I'm average because that's the person who has been like really helped me for my journey, who he held my hand, and I just like really liked him, like how he's been motivating. Even Christian, I remember at one time I was like not very okay, how, and I had so many questions I'm holding on. And I heard one of your open forum, it's like, if you don't believe in it, then don't be in it. Like, and I was telling Nate, you know what, I still don't believe in it. But I'm still in it, but I understood the concept in itself. And then suddenly I think the Christian sends out, hey, we saw your thing. You're doing a great job. So that meant a lot, right? I mean, in terms of like you guys, we see up on there, it's like selling, being personable, talking, spending time with each agency owner, irrespective of somebody like me who's not making money. And now you're going to be talking about somebody who's making 2 million and giving everybody their due time. I think that's huge for people like us. Keep doing that thing, because I think you would want to be able to, you will get the right clientele, really get the right people who really want to work. And it will be a long-term, relationship, because that's where it's a win-win situation for everybody. And then the more you say, it's like, I'm not thinking about the scaling part yet. I'm just like, still, I got to learn how to swim before I just like jump in the water and then just like, start going for a marathon. So
Exactly. That's right on.
yeah. And I just really appreciate you guys, giving the opportunity. And because a lot of this time when you're sharing journeys and you're telling it out, you're talking to yourself too. You're calming yourself down. And don't get me wrong, right? Everybody wants to make money. Everybody has these things that I talked to another brother, right? He just like called me and said, hey, I just got laid off. And a very similar story. I'm like, yes, I did too. But my only difference was he was still thinking of like, I did it a month before I did. So the decision was made for me, but I went all out because I did not want to just think twice in terms of, hey, if I just do this and that's another thing in your contract. I think I just want to share with the viewers who are still thinking about it is you said like it's non-refundable. It has to be non-refundable. If you do not do non-refundable, if you have not burnt your bridges, there will be times in this where you'll be double guessing yourself. But that's where it's a common, like all these emotions are very natural when you go through it, a big decision like this. but you have to be able to know and be steadfast, because the person who has the most kind of like, the belief in it, and then both willpower, is the one who ends up
Well,
winning.
the one who's gonna do it. Yes. You put it so perfect. I'm actually getting goosebumps right now. Like, this is exactly the vision that we have, right? Myself and Abdul really like thinking like this. And I'm glad that and I know it's a little hard, right? Just like you said, it's just a big change, going from working to being a business owner is like a big change. So there's a lot of things that kind of come into it, but you're handling it really, really well. And I can't wait to see your success, there. But final question, I'm curious, what would you say to the viewers who are kind of watching this right now? Maybe they're on the edge, right? They really want to join, but they're like, I don't know if I should or not. What would you say to them?
I would say, think of like, why are you in it? And I'll just like, just like say the reason for it, right? Any business will take a tough decision. And I obviously am sharing, I'm being completely honest with you where I'm at. And I'm not at a point where I will tell you this is the best thing, because I haven't seen the other size of it. But then I would be the biggest advocate, because the reason that I'm sitting over here is because of like, my faith into this program. You learn, right? Understand anything that you're getting into it. If there's a learning and it will give you something, it will be yours. I have an agency, that's my name. Now, what's gonna be happening later? It's not something, it's in your control, but the team is somebody that real. They're the people who actually do work for you. They're people who have been like, they would respond, like my client manager was respond back to me at midnight. I know you're sometimes, I know on you're still on there. I don't know how you do everything. Christian's just like on there. And then you people are real people. It's not somebody who has done a lot of success, and you really would want to be able to help other people out. And that's what I believe up to this point. And I think it's a good leap of faith, whether you're in it for a passive income or whether you want to be able to make it your active goal. It's a good start. You can start it slow and then build it up, because you have an options like, just like that. Or if you have an experience, utilize the support, because there's multiple of support in all these programs and options that you guys have there. It's honestly a bit overwhelming for somebody like me. And I'm trying to be able to hold myself back, not getting to these programs where I just do not really understand it completely. But take it slow, step one by one, have faith, and make the decision. When you wake up, you'll know what to do.
Well said. That was 10 out of 10. That's exactly, yeah, wow, that's amazing. So really appreciate you for jumping on here. I know it's a Saturday. We all value your time, and I'm sure the viewers here listening got a lot of value from this as well. And yeah, thank you very much.
You appreciate it. And thank you. I'll hope to talk to you in the future too.
Absolutely. All right. Take care.
Take care.